Broadcasting from the Ante Up studio, it's the longest running poker podcast for the everyday poker player with your host, Joe Scales.
Hello, A-Team. It is Friday, March 3rd. Another month is behind us, and we begin the third month of 2023. This week's episode, I feel like, is going to go a little long, so I'm going to keep this as short as possible. But we have a fill-in for Tay in the Hand of the Week. We have a great surprise in the How You Running segment when we talk to Jeff from Camp One Step, and a little life advice in the One Outer. That's all I have, so let's get on with the show.
Find out what conversations are happening around the poker table with Table Talk.
All right, here we are back around the poker table with Mike. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Yo, Joe. Well, I am fine. Boy, if I was any better, you wouldn't be able to stand me.
Well, it's been a week since we've done this, so what's been new?
Nothing. Just, sunshine, warm, rain, cloudy, fog.
Well, listen, we've got a few things to talk about today. Let's start with Moneymaker, because we talked about him a few weeks ago. You know, his poker room may have closed there in Paducah, Kentucky, but now he's going to be starting the Moneymaker Tour.
The Moneymaker Tour?
Coming soon to a casino near you.
You know what? I bet he doesn't come to Virginia.
I don't know. He's got some options. You know, he's got Portsmouth now. He's got Danville coming. He also has up there in the Baltimore, Maryland area he could come to. That would be close enough. The details on it haven't been released yet. They said they won't be available for a few more weeks, but I'm guessing he won't have a stop in Paducah. Just a guess. I'm guessing he won't have much trouble finding any other venues, though. Speaking of venues, online, let's go back to this topic. We seem to be coming up on it a lot lately, too. But Indiana...
Oh, we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, I know. Indiana will not be getting online poker this year, as the iGaming measure expired in committee.
Didn't even get to the vote.
Yeah, they didn't even get a chance to vote on it.
Oh, my gosh.
So, no online for Indiana.
Well, I guess let the money keep going out of state, y'all. Yep, let it keep going out of state.
Right? That's the way it's going. So, another thing that we did, and I had fun with it, February 22nd, we put a poll out because February 22nd was National Margarita Day.
Yeah.
So it got me to thinking, when you go to the poker tables, do you want to have a drink? Do you not want to have a drink? Whatever. So I put a poll out with 3 options. 1, bring me a beer. 2, mixed drinks or on the rocks for me. And 3, no way, Jose Cuervo, no drinking at the table for me. Where do you fall in on that, Mike?
I would drink coffee in half and half. But if I was going to have something, though, yeah, it would be I'd drink a screwdriver or a bourbon and Coke. But I mean, I may drink one, but if I'm sitting there, I'll either have bottled water, coffee 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I would say more times than not, I'm going to fall into that no way, Jose Cuervo as well. Every now and then, and somebody else said this in the comments too, it depends on if I'm playing in a home game or if I am in the casino too.
In a home game, I can cry.
Well, doing this was kind of fun. I really enjoyed seeing the responses from people. So I thought each week we're going to come up with a poll and we're going to put it out there for the people.
You and I was talking about some stuff one day, and you brought it up. You asked, you know what I'd like to see? Where do most people listen to us at? On what app do they listen to us?
I like it. I think
what's the ones that, where you at, folks?
Yeah, I like that. So this week's poll will be, what podcast app do you use to listen to Ante Up? I like it. And then we can give them some choices. You listen to yours on what? Apple, right?
I got an Apple on there. My Apple there's always available.
Yeah.
Casey is on Spotify.
Yeah, so Spotify is probably where the majority of people that are not using Apple go. It's funny because iHeart says that they are the number one app for podcasts.
Huh.
So we'll see if that's true.
We'll find out about that, won't we?
And then I know a lot of people.
iHeart does a lot of radio stuff.
Oh yeah. I use Stitcher, which is kind of old school. I think it's kind of
Stitcher.
older. I just learned. Okay, so this is actually a good topic because we had some problems a while back when I was first getting this uploaded. I was having trouble with it getting onto Stitcher, and I had learned through that process that Stitcher actually got bought out.
Would a surgeon buy it?
So Stitcher was bought by SiriusXM, actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I guess that'll be our main choices. You've got Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Stitcher, or other.
Okay. 5 choices. Good gosh. Hey, another thing I want to tell everybody real quick about before we do anything else.
Yeah.
I know we got to get this out there. It's something that's really, it's really good for me because I'm sitting here just chewing away. But guys, the Girl Scout cookies have been selling cookies for 2 weeks now, maybe 3 weeks.
All right.
And I bought a case of cookies.
I'm sorry, a case?
A case. I bought 12 boxes of cookies. I got 2 boxes left of cookies.
What is your favorite cookie? Girl Scout cookie, I should say.
I don't have one.
What do you mean you don't have one? That's a cop out. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
My favorite. The ones that, okay, if they quit making those cookies altogether, and the Thin Mints, hands down.
Yeah. See?
Yeah. Then Samoas.
Wait, what are the Samoas? Which one's those?
It's the round coconut cookie with the
I like this.
chocolate. They're dangerous. They come out with one here a while back, just several years ago. It was a big old animal cookie, with the animal on the square.
Okay.
And they dipped in chocolate. And that was the best cookie I've ate.
What?
And then they quit making them 2 years later. 2 years they quit making them. Yeah, it'd have to be. I love them lemon ones. To God, man, you got me going. I'll open another pack up and tell you tomorrow.
My favorite is I don't even know what they're called, but it's the peanut butter and chocolate. What are those called?
I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about. Thin Mints win. I mean, you freeze the Thin Mints. You got to put them in the freezer.
Yeah.
Then you pull them out with a big old glass of milk.
I think you can keep the milk, but the rest of it sounds good. All right, Mike, you take it easy.
Wait a minute, stop. I'm playing in that charity tournament tomorrow night. I forgot to tell everybody.
Oh, yeah.
They're raising money for military, law enforcement, emergency services workers, and a lot of different things, veterans. I've been looking at this company, and they take money. They do birthday parties for old veterans and stuff, and they help out families of people in military and law enforcement, emergency services and stuff.
Gratitude Charlottesville Charity Poker Tournament.
It's their annual charity. It's their second annual, I think, this year. It's $100 buy-in, and it's $600 in chips. They start at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, and just go. I'm going to have a little fun, so I'm hoping that those folks have a great turnout. All right. I just want to throw that in there. So I'll be there, and I'll let you know next week how it was.
That sounds good. Say the name one more time.
Gratitude.
Charity
Poker.
Let us know next week how you did, and we'll talk to you soon.
Now it's time for Call the Floor with Elliot Schechter.
Elliot Schechter is the poker room manager for Rivers Casino in Schenectady, New York. He joins us each week to say how he would rule on situations that come up in your games, and he's with me again this week. How are you, Elliot?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks. How you doing, Joe?
I am doing well. Baseball season is upon us, so I'm excited.
I can't wait. Big baseball fan.
Great. Well, listen, Mickey Foster sent in this week's Call the Floor, and he says he's playing 1-3. It folds to me in cutoff, and I open to 12 with the jack of diamonds, 10 of clubs. It then folds to the big blind, who is a friendly 60-something man who calls. Flop comes jack of spades, 10 of hearts, 6 of hearts. I bet 20. He jams for like 95 more. I call. Board runs out, runner, spades. Villain looks at the board, then back at his hand, and is hesitant to show, so I just roll over my cards. He kind of shakes his head and looks one more time. He's never tabled his hand. He's holding his cards out in front of him enough that the player to his right can see. Villain is about to muck, still hasn't tabled his hand. Guy to his right tells him he made the runner nut flush, and he tables the ace of spades, 10 of spades. If the hand is not tabled, should other players be able to talk about the hand even if they can see it? And is this more of a poker etiquette question?
Well, I'll answer both those questions. Yes, it is a poker etiquette question because, well, it's behavior. One player to a hand, one hand to a player. Well, this is a clear violation of that rule, and that's an etiquette rule more than anything else, even though it is one of the rules that makes the game of poker. Players should not be talking about hands that are not tabled, period, ever. That player was, in effect, reading that player's hand for them and did so rather explicitly in the situation you sent us.
Right.
So there's good and bad here. You were never going to win this pot, Mickey, and I feel badly for that. Just because a third party interfered doesn't mean you're going to win. We're not disqualifying the winning hand nor that player. The offending player, the one who read his hand while it was not on the table, I'm generally going to rack that player up and send him packing for the day. And if he's done it before, I'm probably sending him packing for a few months.
Oh.
This is a pretty serious violation of the game. Poker is not a team sport, unless it's specifically a tag team tournament or some kind of team event. Cash poker especially is an individual endeavor. This player had no right to read the hand until it was tabled. Once it's on the table, not only can and may people read the hands, but everybody at the table, including the dealer, is obligated to read the hand once the backs of those cards are on the table. But that was not the case. These cards were clearly in possession of the player, not tabled. Nobody besides the player in possession of that hand has the right to turn it over or read it at that point. The third party absolutely needs to be penalized, and very severely, I might add. This is not one of those mercy situations. Oh, I didn't know. Well, by getting thrown out, you'll learn. Don't do it.
Well, let me ask you about the player that was holding his cards out there, kind of unprotecting those. Is there any kind of punishment or penalty for that player as well?
He would receive an admonishment, and according to the rules, a warning is still a penalty. He would absolutely be admonished and reprimanded for holding his cards in such a way that other players could see them and gain information. He's not supposed to do that. We're all responsible for protecting the game and protecting our hands. He's not supposed to be holding his cards in a way that other people can see them.
Right.
Even if the betting is over. Unless he was turning the hand over, there's no point in other people seeing those cards.
So you would issue a warning to the player that was holding his cards out, and the other player that spoke up in the hand would be asked to leave the table? Is that right?
Correct. The player who is holding his cards in such a way that other people can see them, yeah, we would let him know that's not acceptable. You must protect your hand. You must protect the game. You can't show other people your cards when they're not tabled. The offending player, the person who read the hand while it wasn't tabled, I'm not just throwing him out of the game, I'm throwing him out of the casino. He's leaving for at least the day, and if it's happened with him previously, he's leaving for a much longer period of time.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mickey, I hope that clears things up for you, and thank you, Elliot.
You're welcome, Joe. Always a good time.
Let's break it down with Hand of the Week.
All right, here we are with another Hand of the Week. Tay Whiteside couldn't join us this week, so went out and found another fish. That's Patrick Guzzi. He's here with us. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm pretty good.
So we're going to do this the same way. You go through the hand, and then I will critique afterward.
Sounds good.
All right. This hand was sent in by Chris Fry. Chris is playing 1-3. In this particular case, Under the Gun straddles for $9, and it's folded to Chris in the cutoff. He has about $1,400-ish in his stack. You have the King of Diamonds, 10 of Clubs. What are you going to do?
I'm going to go ahead and call with that.
All right. So you call the $9. And in the case of Chris, so Chris actually went with a raise. He opened to $30.
Wow.
So he took it up a little bit higher, which typically when somebody straddles, then you want to try to pump up the action a little bit like that. Taking it up to 30, that's a little over 3 times, which I would probably stick to, right around that 3x raise. The small blind calls. The small blind has just over $600 in his stack. And the straddler calls as well with around 350 behind. So then your flop comes out. It's the queen of diamonds, the 6 of clubs, and the 2 of spades. It checks to you. What are you going to do?
So it checks to me. I didn't pair anything up. I don't have any kind of draw that I can see. I'm probably going to check back to them and see how the betting goes.
All right. Well, Chris looked at the aggression that he had before the flop. He looked at that aggression, made a C bet of 55. So he continued for $55. The small blind calls, and the straddler now folds. So he got one person out. He says the small blind, there's a little information on who you're playing with now. Small blind is an older gentleman who has limped pre with 3 strong hands prior. Queens, kings, and ace king.
Wow.
So they've seen him limp with those hands already. So he made the call, and the turn is the ace of diamonds. Now, the small blind leads into you for $65. What are you going to do with that?
So if he's limped in going into previous hands with those sets of cards, and now he comes out strong, my guess is that he was looking for a draw that he completely missed on the flop, and now he's going to try to take this down. I still don't have anything that I've paired just yet, but I'm going to call.
Okay. All right. I mean, you did get a gut shot, right? So you need a jack.
Yeah.
But that's really the only thing that you're looking at.
Yep.
Yeah. And he says, I got a bit confused in the moment as he donk bet into me. The donk bet didn't make much sense. The ace should help my range more than his. I had seen him do a similar play earlier in the night with a weak 1 pair holding on the turn, which seemed like he was trying to do some sort of blocker bet. I call. Now the river comes out as the 3 of diamonds, making the board queen of diamonds, 6 of clubs, 2 of spades, ace of diamonds, 3 of diamonds. Now the small blind checks. What are you going to do?
So looking back at how the hand played out with my first strong bet, he limped in afterwards. He came in with a strong bet after the ace of diamonds came down. I'm probably going to go in strong thinking that he's going to fold out on missing and thinking that I have a high pair in my hand or matched up something else. So I'm probably going to come in. What was the original bet? It was what?
So the original bet that you made in this one was $30. Then you C bet on the flop for $55, and then he led into you for $65. So your pot right now is $333.
I'm probably going to push probably 75, thinking he'll go away on this,
Okay.
even with nothing.
All right. So Chris says, I think I have one of my best bluff candidates, specifically with the king of diamonds. And I think I can have a ton of strong hands, which I would want to use a large sizing for. I also think it's very unlikely that he has a flush, given that he donked the turn and then checked to me on the river when the flush completed. So I shove all in for $490 effective.
Way to go, Chris.
He got called, and the older gentleman had ace deuce for 2 pair.
Wow.
So a couple of things on this hand. Pre-flop with king 10 in the cutoff, I think it's okay to push there, but it's also, I could go either way. I definitely, if I feel like I think that the straddler is going to come over the top of me or something like that, I could definitely fold a king 10 offsuit. It's not a super strong hand, but as played, I don't understand on the flop betting 60% of the pot on kind of a dry board. There's not much there. Then on the turn, when he bets there, you've got to figure he's played strong hands with limps already to this point, so you've got to put him on something there. He just called you before that, so I could definitely fold right there. You've got to put him on 2-pair sets, things like that. I think I'm folding there, because once you get to this point, what are you going to rep otherwise? Because you bet big on the flop and then you just called on the turn. So I don't know that you can rep much there, where you're 60% on the flop and then maybe a backdoor flush, but that's about it. On the river, the jam there doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you have the flush there, you're going to want to get paid. So over betting like that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're not going to make your money that way on the hands that can potentially call you. I mean, you're running the risk of them folding, whereas if you bet half the pot, 3/4 pot even, they may call you. That's my thoughts on there. Just not a super wise spot for a bluff. That's what I would say. But pre-flop, definitely would have raised something there big. I probably would have folded on the turn rather than making that call, or maybe even if I'm going to put a raise in, maybe put that raise in on the turn rather than jamming on the river or something like that. What are your thoughts on the rest of the hand?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, we can always, Monday morning quarterback even with that. I mean, it would have been smart too. It obviously makes a lot of sense when the bet came out, when he had the bet come out on the aces, or when the ace came out, and at that point, maybe it's a cut your loss kind of thought process, at least in my head. But at that point, he limped in a couple times beforehand. Maybe that was swaying the decision, but not a strong enough hand to throw a bet at the end. But
right. That, the thought process, like you said, where go back to, he had limped in with those strong hands before. I mean, then I'm surprised that he was only at ace deuce, because he could definitely have limped in with ace queen if he limped in with ace king. So, put that in that range as well. Anyway, that's the hand of the week. Chris, I appreciate you sending that in. Patrick, I appreciate you joining me on this one.
Absolutely. If you need another fill in next time, maybe we'll have a little bit more success on that next hand of the week. So
that
count
sounds
me
good.
in.
That sounds good. All right. And if you have a hand of the week that you would like us to break down, send it to podcast@anteupmagazine.com.
The question is, how you running?
All right, Dave Curta is our Arizona ambassador, and he's been working hard out there. Before we get too far, Dave, how you running out there?
Good, Joe. Glad to be back on the show. Personally, yeah, it's. I think the last time we spoke was running into it a little bit, but things have straightened out, and I think a lot of it I attribute to just the tourism that's been coming through here. A lot of different players, not seeing the same regs at every table
right
that you have normally. So with spring training in full swing, see a lot of new faces at the tables, and thankfully the hands have cooperated as well. So all in all, really running pretty well.
Well, that's awesome. I know that you've been traveling a little bit. Before we got on here, you mentioned you went out to Texas and played a little bit. How'd you do out there?
I didn't do well, but just finally getting a chance to play in Texas, I think was really cool for me, having to do the membership thing. I was in Houston and paying the rake, on a time basis, and then dealer change, bomb pot, double board bomb pots. But it was really a cool experience.
Nice. Well, let's start with talking about some of the tournaments that are going to be happening out there, or that have happened out there. And then we'll kind of transition into the cash game scene out there. So what's tournaments look like right now?
I think the biggest one is going to be Lone Butte at the end of this month, and they're already running satellites for it, but it's a $200K guarantee at Lone Butte. It's a $500 entry, and that'll run Thursday, Friday, Saturday, starting March 30th. And like I said, there's a lot of satellites going all month. And I know Talking Stick they're planning something. I don't know yet, but I think they've got something big coming up as well. They're still running their big stacks. Like Saturday, there's a 345, and that usually has anywhere from 9 to 10,000 up top. And they've got their Winter Divisional Championship, which runs right now, and the tournament's going to be on March 26th.
Okay.
So a lot of players are trying to do well in the dailies to qualify for that. That's a $40K guarantee.
Okay. Is your wife planning on playing any of those?
She's qualified for it. Yeah.
Nice.
She's trying to get a few more points. It helps.
Well, what about the cash game scene out there? We talked before. You're primarily cash game. I love playing cash. I do love mixing the two together, though. So what's the cash game look like out there?
I primarily play a talking stick, and I'll go down to Lone Butte a few times, a month with my wife. But talking stick got a big room, and right now, I think since Super Bowl and Waste Management, that day was full. It was completely full. I think they had 60 some tables going, and
Wow.
It's just been super active. Right after that, spring training, baseball season started, so you see a lot of people out there with their team hats and gear on playing, and I think more so in the 2-3 and some of the limit games. You don't quite see that in the 3-5 and 5-10, but I can see on the board that starting Thursday and going all the way through the weekend, you're seeing some really big games running. So it's a good time. It's a really good time to be out here playing poker. There's a lot of action.
That's good. That's what I like to hear. Well, we've got that tournament getting ready to start up that they're running the satellites for. We'll kind of touch base once that gets going too, but definitely wanted to get on here and talk about things that were upcoming. It had been a while since we had touched base down your way. So
right.
I appreciate you jumping on, and we'll talk again in a few weeks.
All right. Anytime, Joe. Take care.
All right. Thanks. Now we'll run out to LA, where Todd Lemansky is our ambassador. Todd, I know the LAPC is wrapping up, and we've got another circuit event starting there. But first, let's get started with how you running.
Well, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, so that's always a good thing.
That's right.
Unfortunately, I did not cash in any of the events I played at the LAPC. And I busted out with aces suited to a baby card and stud 8. So anybody that plays stud 8 knows that I couldn't have asked for pretty much a better hand to get my last 7 big bets in on. But such is life in poker.
Was not to be. Okay. Well, like I said, the LAPC is wrapping up now. We started it out with an interesting story that we talked about on the podcast with Perry Green winning his first tournament in like 35 years, which was a fun start. What other stories highlight that series?
Well, I think one of the big ones is the $1,200 Classic, which was the tournament that happened before the main event started. It was event number 56. They got 1,331 entries, which generated a prize pool over $1.4 million. And
wow, so poker's growing still.
And Michael Wasserman from Woodland Hills took home $241,670 for first place.
Love it.
Not a bad day at the office.
Right.
The 40-40 actually did pretty good too. They had 975 entries and generated a prize pool of $497,000 and $497,250 with a 200 guaranteed prize pool. So they 2.5x that one.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'd say the other ones is James Woods, he plays a lot of mixed games in LA, the actor James Woods. We see him around a lot. Yeah. He cashed in a few events. He actually won the $600 Heroes Partners event with a girl named Linda Tran.
Okay.
And Ari Engel, who is a professional player.
Yeah.
He's one of the only guys I've ever seen that can bust a $10,000 tournament and then 10 minutes later will buy into a $250 horse event. But it's like most poker players, they either play one level or they play this level, or the guys that play big don't like to play small, and the guys that play small can't afford to play big, and this guy just likes to play poker.
That's good.
But he had several cashes too, including winning the 9-game 6-handed mix tournament that I busted out of with my aces.
That's all good stuff. And then we've got the circuit event kicking off.
That one actually started on Tuesday, the 28th. So we got a little bit of an overlap right now with the LAPC and the bicycle. So So the final table, the last 7 players in the LAPC main event are going to have cards in the air at noon today on the West Coast. That's about an hour and 45 minutes from now. That will run until the 5th of March. So they still have this Remington series, which is a $100K guarantee with a $250 buy-in. That's going to be starting up today, I think it is. And then the circuit event at the bike kicked off, like I said, on Tuesday, and we'll be running through April 18th. Right now at the bike is the first Quantum Reload event. It's a $300K guarantee with buy-ins, $300, $560, and $2,100, depending on when you buy into the tournament.
So are you able to play any of those?
I can play. One of the things that attracted me to stay and work at the bike in the first place was the fact that even when I was a dealer, you could play. So
good. So do you have any of those circled on your calendar?
yeah, we are actually also hosting a mixed game championship. It's in a quantum reload format. There's 150K guarantee. That's going to be event 40. It's going to kick off on Tuesday, the 28th of March, and day 2 will be the 4th of April. It's got buy-in levels of 500 and 1,000. You can play day 1A as 08, as stud 8, as limit hold'em. There's a day with a stud 8, 08 mix. There's a triple draw, which is deuce to 7, Badoogie, and ace to 5. That's the one I got my eye on. And then day 2, basically, if you buy in for $500, 10% of the field will make it to day 2. And if you buy in for 1,000, 20% of the field will make it to day 2. Day 2 will kick off on Tuesday the 4th, and it will actually be Heroes, which is horse, but the TDA kind of changed the horse rules at their last summit to kind of separate some of the stud games. So horse is now Heroes for anybody that didn't know. But anybody that follows the TDA, they're going to play horses Heroes from now on, because to separate, they don't want the 2 stud games in a row or whatever.
Okay.
So that's the one I got. That's the one I had highlighted for me. Like I said, the 300K Quantum is going on right now. Day 2 for that's going to be this Sunday. If you want to buy in directly to day 2, that's a $2,100 buy-in. And then our first ring event is going to be on Saturday at 10 a.m. It's a double stack, $250 buy-in with a 50K guarantee.
Okay.
Also, the $1,700 main event circuit. We got a $2,200 high roller, and this is also the Mega Millions. It will happen in April, and it's like a big quantum reload tournament. It's got a $1.5 million guarantee with buy-in levels of 275, 560, and a direct buy-in to day 2 for 3,600. So that's what we're looking at right now.
So what does tournaments like this do to the cash game scene out there? Does it bring more to it? There's already a pretty big cash scene out there, but does this bring a little bit more action to that?
I mean, it has to, because I know, I obviously know some of the dealers that work at the bike too, even on the cash side, because they used to work on the tournament side. And he was telling me they're not even allowed to take off at all while we have a tournament series going on. Nobody can make a vacation request. So that tells me that there's definitely a bump in the cash games when we're running a major tournament series in the event center.
That makes sense, actually. But perfect. Anything else you want the listeners to know about what's going on out there?
No, just keeping with what I said last time is, like I said, the bike's going to wrap up on 4/18, and then the Commerce is coming back on April 21st to May 21st. So like I said before, there's always a tournament happening in the LA area for anybody that likes to play tournaments.
Good deal. All right. Well, last thing before I let you go, I did want to say thank you. Todd sent me some pictures from the Truman Presidential Library based on the one outer that I did a few weeks ago. Those were pretty cool pictures. That chipset there, and just really cool pictures. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, and then as we both are Missouri fans, of course, with your Royals background and my Chiefs hat, we've got to note that President Truman was also the only president from Missouri. So
that is correct. All right, Todd, I appreciate you jumping on here, and we will talk once we get a little bit further into this circuit event. We'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good, Joe. Thanks.
Now we'll close out this segment back in Chicago with Jeff Infusino from Camp One Step. Hey, Jeff, we typically start with how you running in this segment, but in your case, we'll just start with how you doing.
I'm doing great, Joe, and thanks for having me on. And I appreciate how you're running and how you go into that, because if you're talking about how I'm running, my game's always bad. So I appreciate you just ask how I'm doing.
Well, listen, we're going to get to the poker stuff in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about the Utah ski camp that just ended, right? Yep. I looked at some of the pictures online. I loved looking through there. It looked like a lot of fun. You know, I saw people with the rock climbing and the skiing and snowboarding and all that. But tell me a little bit about that, because it looks like so much fun.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm happy to talk about it. The Utah ski camp, as well as all of our camps, are all about what you can do and giving you an opportunity as a camper to forget about your cancer diagnosis and not get caught up in treatment and all those type of things. We give you an opportunity to be with other kids that have gone through that, your counselors that have maybe been through that as well. But more importantly, put the I can back in your life, right? And as my last time I was on, it's cancer does everything about I can't. So Utah Ski Camp was getting kids out to Park City, Utah. And the reason we go to Park City is we have an incredible organization called the National Ability Center that allows us to bring kids that may not be the perfect skiers. What I mean by that is they may be legally blind, or they might have some impairments that don't allow them to ski as we normally would. We have kids that are in wheelchairs that are using in a sled, so they can sit ski, if you will, and they can ski down double diamonds. And that is really what it's all about: is don't let things get in your way. You can do whatever you want to do, and our job from a camp perspective is given that opportunity. So we had 30 kids that went to Utah, and they had a great week of skiing. And at one day they got 24 inches of snow in between. So it was like a Monday, Tuesday, I got that Wednesday, 24 inches of snow. Can you believe it?
Wow. No, that's crazy.
Yeah. And they were out there loving it. And, it was just what Utah's supposed to be, right? You want them to have snow and enjoy it. But, a couple of quick stories, and I want to read an email, if it's okay with you, that I received from a parent.
Oh, yeah.
So one story is we had a camper that came to camp about 2 years ago, and he used to ski with his dad quite a bit. But because of his cancer, his stability wasn't there to be able to be just on a couple of skis and going down any mountain. And he went to Utah, and because of the National Ability Center, they were able to get him in a sled. So now he was guided we have instructors that help guide him down the hill, and they're tethered and doing that. And when he came off, he said, my dad and I talked about this, and I thought I would never be able to ski with him again. And now I have the opportunity to ski with my dad like we used to. So I didn't lose that opportunity. And that's what camp does. That's what it gives us, that opportunity for kids to get their life back. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And if I can just read this email just came across from this parent.
Oh yeah.
She says, I have no idea how to thank you and your team for the ski trip you provided to my child. I did have to push her a little bit to go because she wasn't quite sure about it. I have not heard one thing about the trip other than she had a great time and she loved it. She had an absolute blast. She loved everyone so much that the experience was priceless. For a parent, it's not only about the fun had. She came home to a whole new perspective on life. She saw kids that had the same thing as her, and they are now living life. I think she had a very hard time thinking about cancer after treatments. She kept thinking it will come back and couldn't move on. This camp and people gave her a new outlook. She even went to my parents' house and told them all about it, and they couldn't believe how much she had changed. Now she is signing up for more camps and wants to be a counselor. Wow, huge. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you. So
wow,
when you look at that.
Yeah, she's wanting to, she had such a great time. She wants to give back and become a counselor, and that's incredible.
Yeah. And I think, Joe, the real important piece is, we're going to talk about poker in a minute, but it's really the difference that everyone here makes that says, we know from a cancer diagnosis, we've known family members, all of us on this podcast, really, and friends and kids and all that. But when they look at it, it's devastating. It thinks that, all you're thinking about is what's next. And now kids are coming back because that's been weighing on them so heavily, but they go to camp and now their outlook's changed. Now they want to do more. They feel they can do more, right?
Yeah. I'm so glad that there's a place like Camp One Step where these kids get a place to be kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've enjoyed seeing those pictures. What's the next camp?
So the next stop is we have a Chicago day camp that's coming up in March, where we have kids that are 5 to 10. It's patients, kids that are diagnosed, as well as their siblings. We had siblings this year. And where they're going to do a bunch of activities and do rock climbing, and they'll do some things that we kind of did in Utah, obviously at a smaller scale because of younger kids, but they'll do a lot of different things where they'll come together. And as that mom said in that email, it's about the fun, but it's about being with other kids that understand you, that make you feel whole again, right? And so that's coming up, and that's based out of Chicago. So they'll be doing some things in the Chicago area, but we have 40 or 45 kids that are going to be together, experiencing camp, right? And one last story, if I can. Another mom sent an email the other day about how much her child enjoyed Utah and made a difference for her. And she talked about how the reality hits pretty quickly when she came back from camp, because she's in a sport, and that sport now, she's not as fast and she's not as accepted because she's a little slower because of her cancer diagnosis. She's not as quick as some of the other kids. And, she doesn't get picked, or
Right.
she's the last one to get picked, right? And she said, but she can handle that now because she has camp and she has an opportunity to be herself when she wants to be. And so that's the important part that I just want to get across to you. And I know you know that, but your listeners as well, is everybody here makes a difference. And kids come back in a way that, makes them feel so special. It's gratifying not only to the parents, but to us here at Camp One Step, all of our volunteers, all of our staff, our board, but everyone on your podcast. If they just go to @Camp One Step and follow us on social, they'll experience it firsthand as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would encourage everybody to do that because, like I said, when I look through those pictures, and it's just so incredible to see the smiles on those faces, and they're the reason, like you said, that we're doing all of these things like this tournament coming up. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about where we are as far as registration goes. And then we'll talk about you guys have something special for the listeners as well.
Yeah, we are excited that we're halfway sold out. So we are the tournament's on April 20th at Geller Marchetti in Chicago, and we are halfway through. One thing we have going on is registration is starting to pick up, and so we have something for the listeners, but we have a lot of great things planned. So the most important thing is for us to check us out on our website. Go to camponestep.org and look at things to sign up. But for your listeners, for everybody that's listening to this podcast, we have a special code which would give anybody that signs up $50 off a player seat. And that seat is $300. That seat now becomes $250. And that for that $250, you have an opportunity to go to the World Series of Poker.
Yeah, absolutely. And that code for you guys is ANTEUP50. ANTEUP 50.
That is correct.
Okay, good. Well, listen, I am super excited. I know my wife and I are coming out there and participating, and I know it's going to be a good time. But is there anything else about the tournament that you want to make sure that our listeners know about?
Sure, absolutely. I think that one of the things that we talked a little bit about last time, and I want to throw out here, as we talked about the ante up 50 is for the player's seat. We do have a high roller segment,
Yes.
high roller seats available, right? And those are $700. But you think about it, when you have a tournament that has in our players' seats around 200 to 220 players, right?
Right.
You have to walk through these different segments to get to that World Series final table. When you go to the high roller seat, even though it's a larger investment, it's only 30 players, and 3 of those 30 make it to the final table, right? So your opportunity to get to that World Series of Poker number 1 seat or prize is reduced quite a bit. So we do have high roller seats available at $700. You can get that on our website as well. But most importantly is that if you really want to fast track your way in, that's the best way to do it.
Nice. And then you've got, for the spectators that are there, you've got some fun things for them too. You've got, I think you had the whiskey tasting before. Is that still a thing this year?
We have whiskey tasting. We have a full buffet. We have a craft brewery that's there, for everybody that's participating. But spectators will get some other perks that we have going on that day that we're still outlining and putting together. But just to be in that environment and looking at what's going on in the field, what's happening in the room, and then to get the other things that are going on too. I think it's a great opportunity for people to just come and join us and have fun. Even if you don't play poker, come on, be a spectator.
Absolutely. All right, Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time to be on here and talk to the listeners today. I'm looking forward to being able to meet you when we get out there on the 20th of April. And we'll get you on here again and we'll talk about some of the other things before the tournament starts and afterward to talk about that golf tournament too.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do that, Joe. And thank you so much for taking the time to have me on here. I'm very grateful for you taking that time and for all of your people listening today. But most important, on behalf of all of our staff and our volunteers and our campers, specifically our campers and families, thank you so much because you're making a difference.
I appreciate it.
It's time for Joe's One Outer.
Poker is simple. You get some cards, and then you bet that your hand's better than your opponent's. If your cards are the best, you win. Alternatively, if your opponents are worried that your hand is best and fold, you also win. In both life and poker, you can win by either being the best or by being the only one who doesn't give up. Sometimes it's your tenacity and courage that triumph over someone with the best hand. In life, being confident can get you through a job interview ahead of someone that may have a stronger resume. Not being the best at something is no excuse for not trying. You can still win in both poker and life if you play better than others with what you have. Not having the best starting hand is no excuse to fold. You can get further in life than others that may come from a more advantageous background. You just may have to work a little harder. There are also those perfect hands in poker. The nuts, we call them. The cards that cannot be beat. The issue is, your chips may run out before you have this type of hand. Also in life, waiting for the perfect opportunity may be preventing you from achieving your goals. You can easily run out of time while just waiting. It's dangerous to wait for the right time to quit your job or to start your own business or ask your boss for a raise. The opportunity may vanish if you wait for too long. Success in life and poker depends on finding the right compromises between waiting for favorable conditions and acting when required. Sometimes you're forced to play with horrible cards. But remember, you can still win. Don't make excuses. If you're too passive, you're gonna lose. You need to play proactively and take calculated risks to win. But also understand the risks. In poker, playing it safe means playing only when you have the best hands. Yet this style is so predictable that it can easily be exploited by your opponents. They may bluff you more often or they'll avoid confronting you because, hey, you only play the best hands. In life, you may be missing out on opportunities by also playing it safe. But playing recklessly is also a mistake. If we want to do well, we have to accept that there's risk in everything we do. You can never predict all the outcomes. The best we can do is to maximize our expectations by balancing risk with reward. So, as we start off the month of March, I want to wish you all success in reaching your goals in life and poker. That's today's One Outer, and that's today's show. See you next week, A-Team, and until then, I'll see you at the tables.
The Ante Up Podcast is a production of AnteUpMagazine.com. Contact the show at podcasts@AnteUpMagazine.com or call the show at 540-339-7741. If you'd like to advertise, send an email to editor@AnteUpMagazine.com.